3 women disappeared. From the same house. On the same night. If that sounds impossible, that's because it is. When the first people walked through the front door the next morning, they expected to wake 3 sleeping women. Instead, they found 3 cars still parked outside, 3 purses still inside, a television quietly playing to an empty room, a cigarette left unfinished in an ashtray, a family dog wandering from room to room, waiting for owners who would never come home. Nothing had been stolen. Nothing looked out of place. No windows were broken. No doors had been forced open. No neighbor heard a scream. No one saw anyone leave. It was as if 3 people had simply ceased to exist. More than 30 years later, detectives are still asking the same question everyone asks the moment they hear this case. How do 3 adults disappear from inside their own home without leaving behind a single answer? Before we continue, I want to remember that these aren't just names in an old police file. They were real people with families who have spent decades searching for the truth. If you enjoy deeply researched true crime documentaries that focus on the facts, the victims, and the stories that deserve to be remembered, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. Your support helps keep these cases alive and helps bring forgotten stories back into the spotlight. Now, let's go back to the night of June 6, 1992, when what should have been an ordinary graduation celebration became one of America's most haunting unsolved mysteries. It was supposed to be a night they would remember forever. June 6, 1992, graduation day. Across Springfield, Missouri, parents hugged their children. Cameras flashed. Friends laughed as they promised to stay in touch. For hundreds of teenagers, it marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Among them were 2 best friends, 18-year-old Stacy McCall and Suzanne Streeter. Like everyone else, they spent the evening celebrating. One graduation party became another. Music echoed through quiet neighborhoods. Cars filled driveways. Teenagers who had spent years waiting for this moment tried to make the night last just a little longer. By every account, it was ordinary. There were no arguments, no threats, no strange encounters that anyone could remember. Just 2 friends celebrating the biggest night of their young lives. As the hours passed, their plans began to change. Originally, Stacy and Susie were supposed to spend the night at another friend's house. But when they arrived, the house was already crowded. Too many people. Not enough room. So they did what most teenagers would have done. They changed plans. Instead of staying there, they decided to drive to Susie's home on East Delmar Street. It wasn't far. Her mother, Sherrill Levitt, was already home. The house had always been a comfortable place for friends to gather. Nothing about the decision felt unusual. Nothing about it felt dangerous. Sometime around 2 o'clock in the morning, their car pulled into the driveway. The porch light illuminated the front of the small house. The neighborhood was quiet. Most of the city had already gone to sleep. The girls grabbed their belongings, walked inside, and closed the door behind them. That simple moment would become the last confirmed sighting of any of the 3 women. No one knows what happened after that. Did they talk for a while before going to bed? Did they watch television? Did they make one last phone call? Or had someone already been watching, waiting, knowing exactly when they would get home? Those answers disappeared with them, because while the rest of Springfield slept peacefully that night, something happened inside that house. Something so quiet that not a single neighbor reported hearing a scream. And by sunrise, the lives of 3 families would be changed forever. The next morning, June 7th, 1992, should have been the beginning of summer. Stacy and Susie had plans. They were supposed to meet friends and spend the day at Whitewater, a popular water park just outside Springfield. After a long night of graduation parties, everyone expected them to be running late. Nothing more. As the morning passed, their friends pulled into the driveway on East Delmar Street. The first thing they noticed, both cars were still there. Susie's green Ford Escort. Stacy's car. That wasn't strange. If anything, It meant the girls were probably still asleep. One of their friends walked to the front door and knocked. No answer. She knocked again. Still nothing. Maybe they were exhausted. Maybe they couldn't hear. She reached for the doorknob. It turned. The door wasn't locked. Inside, the house was silent. Not the peaceful silence of people sleeping. The uncomfortable kind. The kind that makes you lower your voice, without even realizing it. Hello. Nothing. They stepped farther inside. The television was still on. A light had been left burning. The family dog, Cinnamon, wandered toward them, excited to see someone. But the three women were nowhere. At first, no one panicked. They searched the bedrooms, the bathroom, the kitchen. Maybe they'd gone outside. Maybe they'd walked next door. Maybe they'd gone to get breakfast. But then, they started noticing the things that didn't make sense. Susie's purse was sitting inside. So was Stacy's. Sherrill's purse was there too. Wallets, keys, personal belongings. Everything they would have needed if they'd chosen to leave. Nobody leaves home without a wallet. Nobody leaves home without their car. Yet all three cars were still sitting exactly where they'd been parked just hours earlier. Then someone noticed something else. On the front porch, the glass globe covering the porch light had been shattered. Broken pieces were scattered across the ground. At the time, it didn't seem important. One of the friends even swept away the broken glass. She had no idea. Those tiny pieces might one day become part of one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in America. Inside the house, everything looked as though life had simply stopped. There were no signs of a struggle. No overturned furniture. No broken windows. No blood. No goodbye. Just a home, waiting for three women who would never return. By now, the excitement of graduation weekend had completely disappeared. Something was terribly wrong. The friends stopped looking for explanations and picked up the phone. Within minutes, Springfield police were on their way. No one standing inside that quiet house could have imagined they were about to witness the beginning of an investigation that would still have no answers more than 30 years later. When Springfield police arrived, they expected to find something. A struggle, a trail, a clue, anything. Instead, they walked into a house that looked almost untouched. The front door showed no signs of being forced open. The windows were intact. Furniture sat exactly where it belonged. Nothing had been ransacked. Nothing had been stolen. If someone had committed a crime inside this house, they had done it without leaving behind the kind of evidence detectives normally rely on. Officers searched every room, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, closets, the garage, the backyard, every place three women could have gone. Nothing. They hadn't simply wandered outside. They hadn't hidden somewhere inside the house. It was as if they had vanished between one moment and the next. Investigators quickly realized something else. This wasn't one missing person. It wasn't even two. Three people had disappeared from the same home during the same night. Think about that. Three adults, each capable of running, screaming, or fighting back. Yet not one neighbor reported hearing a single cry for help. Not one person called the police during the night. Not one witness saw three women being forced into a vehicle. That silence became one of the biggest mysteries in the entire case. As detectives documented the house, they began piecing together the women's final known hours. Susie and Stacy had returned home sometime after 2 a.m. Everything inside suggested they had settled in for the night. Their belongings were there. Their clothes. Their purses. Nothing indicated they were planning to leave again. Sherrill's routine had also ended abruptly. A smoker, she had apparently been relaxing in the living room before going to bed. One detail in particular caught investigators' attention. An ashtray. Inside it, a cigarette that had been left unfinished. It wasn't unusual for Sherrill to smoke. What was unusual was that she never came back to finish it. Something had interrupted an ordinary night so suddenly that whatever happened next left no time to gather a purse, pick up car keys, or even finish a cigarette. Outside, detectives examined the broken porch light. The shattered globe had already been swept away before officers arrived. Whether it had anything to do with the disappearance, or was simply an unfortunate coincidence, has never been determined. But if it was connected, one of the earliest pieces of physical evidence in the case had already been lost. As the afternoon turned into evening, the investigation grew larger. More officers arrived. Neighbors were questioned. The surrounding streets were searched. By then, one thing had become painfully clear. The Springfield Three hadn't chosen to disappear. Something had happened inside that house. The only problem was that whoever was responsible had left almost nothing behind. And then, just as investigators were struggling to find their first real lead, the phone started ringing. By the second day, the disappearance of Sherrill Levitt, Suzanne Streeter, and Stacy McCall was no longer just a local concern. It was a crisis. News spread quickly across Springfield. 3 women, 1 house, no answers. The story was everywhere. Television stations interrupted programming. Newspapers printed their photographs. The police department opened a tip line. And then, the calls started coming in. Hundreds of them, then thousands. Some callers thought they had seen the women. Others believed they had information about suspicious vehicles. Every lead had to be checked. Every possibility had to be investigated. Most went nowhere. But one detail kept bothering detectives. Before police arrived, while friends were still inside the house searching for the missing women, the phone had rung. One of the friends answered it. The caller made a strange, sexually explicit comment and hung up. A short time later, the phone rang again. Another disturbing call. Then silence. At the time, it felt like a disgusting prank. But investigators couldn't ignore the timing. 3 women had just vanished, and someone was calling the house. Was it connected? Was the caller watching? Or was it simply a coincidence that happened at the worst possible moment? To this day, nobody knows. Meanwhile, detectives expanded their search. Officers knocked on doors throughout the neighborhood. One question came up again and again. Did anyone hear anything unusual during the night? Most answers were the same. No. Nothing. No screams. No crashing sounds. No arguments. Nothing that suggested a crime had taken place just a few houses away. Then one witness reported something unusual. A vehicle, parked near the area during the early morning hours. The description was vague. The information incomplete. But in a case with almost no evidence, even a vague lead mattered. Investigators began searching for the vehicle. They followed up on tips, checked registrations, interviewed owners. Nothing. Another promising lead. Gone. Days passed. Then weeks. Search teams combed fields, wooded areas, abandoned properties, creeks and rivers. Anywhere 3 women might have been taken. Every search ended the same way, empty-handed. And that was the most terrifying part. Not that investigators had no suspect. Not that they had no motive. It was that they had almost no evidence that a crime had even occurred. 3 women had vanished. Yet the world around them seemed completely untouched. No body, no witness, no confession, no crime scene. Just a house that looked like its occupants would walk back through the front door at any moment. But with every passing day, that possibility became harder to believe. Because by now, investigators were beginning to consider something they desperately didn't want to admit. What if whoever took the Springfield Three had planned this? As the investigation stretched from weeks into months, one question never changed. Who could have taken 3 women without leaving behind a single trace? Police looked at everyone. Friends, neighbors, former boyfriends, known offenders, anyone who might have crossed paths with Sherrill, Susie, or Stacy. Every lead was followed. Every alibi checked. One by one, they disappeared. Years passed. The case slowly grew colder. Then, investigators received something they hadn't had in a long time. Hope. A convicted criminal named Robert Craig Cox began attracting attention. Cox wasn't an ordinary suspect. He had a violent criminal history. More importantly, he had been living in Springfield when the 3 women disappeared. According to investigators, Cox claimed he knew what had happened. At one point, he reportedly told authorities that the women were dead. But when detectives demanded details, he refused to cooperate. Some investigators believed he was playing games. Others wondered if he really knew something. The problem was, knowing and proving are 2 very different things. Police searched for evidence linking Cox to the disappearance. They examined his movements, interviewed people who knew him, compared timelines. But once again, they ran into the same wall. There was no physical evidence, no eyewitness, nothing that placed him inside the house on East Delmar Street. Without evidence, there could be no arrest. Without an arrest, there could be no answers. And Robert Craig Cox wasn't the only person whose name surfaced. Over the years, other individuals were mentioned by investigators, reporters, and even members of the public. Some had suspicious histories. Others simply happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But suspicion isn't proof. Rumors aren't evidence. And investigators understood something the public often forgets. A theory may sound convincing, but if it can't be proven, it doesn't solve the case. As the years rolled on, new technology gave investigators fresh hope. Cold cases around America were being solved through DNA. Missing persons were being identified decades later. Families who had waited a lifetime were finally getting answers. People wondered, could the Springfield Three be next? Could one forgotten piece of evidence finally reveal what happened? But every new review of the case ended the same way. The evidence simply wasn't there. Somewhere, someone knew exactly what happened inside that house. But whoever that person was, they had stayed silent for more than 30 years. And with every passing year, the chances of hearing that truth grew smaller. Yet one thing never changed. 3 families still woke up every morning without answers. Time is supposed to solve mysteries. Witnesses remember something. Technology improves. Someone's conscience finally gives in. A mistake gets uncovered. That's how most cold cases end. Not this one. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years. Then decades. Springfield changed. Neighborhoods grew. Children who weren't even born in 1992 became adults. Police officers assigned to the case retired. Some investigators passed away without ever learning what happened. But the file never closed. Every few years, the case would return to the headlines. A new search, a new interview, a fresh review of old evidence. Families hoped. The public hoped. Investigators hoped. Maybe this would finally be the break. It never was. The house on East Delmar Street eventually changed owners. New families moved in. Children played in the yard. Cars came and went from the driveway. Life continued, just as it always does. But for the families of Sherrill, Susie, and Stacy, time never really moved forward. Every birthday was another reminder. Every Christmas, another empty chair. Every Mother's Day, another painful question. What happened? Stacy McCall's mother, Janice, never stopped asking. Neither did the people who loved Susie and Sherrill. They weren't searching for revenge. They weren't asking for miracles. They wanted something much simpler. The truth. Somewhere, someone knows it. Maybe it was a neighbor who noticed something unusual and dismissed it. Maybe it was someone who heard a story they thought couldn't possibly be true. Or maybe it's the person responsible. A person who has carried this secret for more than 3 decades. Imagine living with that. Every anniversary, every news report, every documentary, knowing exactly what happened, and saying nothing. Investigators have often said the case can still be solved, not because new evidence suddenly appears, but because people change, loyalty changes, fear changes, secrets become harder to carry. Someone who stayed silent in 1992 might not stay silent forever. And that's why, even after all these years, the Springfield Three are still listed as missing. Not forgotten, not abandoned, still waiting, still hoping, still searching. Because until the truth is finally spoken, the last chapter of this story hasn't been written yet. If you stood outside 1717 East Delmar Street today, you'd probably drive right past it. It doesn't look haunted. It doesn't look unusual. It's just another house, on another quiet street, in another American neighborhood. That's what makes this story so unsettling. Because on the outside, nothing ever changed. But inside that house, 3 lives ended without anyone even realizing it. Sherrill Levitt never got to grow old. Suzanne Streeter never got to experience the future she celebrated just hours before. Stacy McCall never got the chance to begin the adult life she'd spent 18 years dreaming about. For the rest of us, the Springfield Three became a mystery. For their families, they remained a mother, a daughter, a best friend. And that's the part that's often forgotten. This isn't just an unsolved case. It's 3 empty seats at family gatherings. 3 birthdays that came and went without a phone call. 3 lives that simply stopped. More than 3 decades have passed. Technology has changed. Investigators have changed. The world has changed. Yet one thing hasn't. The question, what happened after that front door closed? Until that question is answered, the Springfield Three will remain one of the most haunting unsolved disappearances in American history. Not because it's the oldest, not because it's the most famous, but because it reminds us of something deeply unsettling. Sometimes, the most terrifying place to disappear is the place you're supposed to be the safest. Home. If someone watching this remembers anything, no matter how small, or knows something that has never been shared with investigators, even after all these years, that one piece of information could matter. And if this story stayed with you, help us keep it alive. Subscribe for more deeply researched true crime documentaries that remember the victims, follow the evidence, and give forgotten cases the attention they still deserve. Share this video with someone who cares about unsolved mysteries. The more people who know these stories, the greater the chance that one forgotten detail might finally lead to the answer a family has been waiting decades to hear. Until next time, thank you for watching.